Yeah, so we do apologize. It is very long, but I think it's worth having it longer just to be able to give it more descriptive that way. And
We'll have timestamps for each part.
right.
Hi, welcome back to a Xterra Files special episode featuring a Hyundai Veloster 2012. We were replacing the speaker system because we had a blown speaker on the other side in this car. We just recently got it. But we didn't want to have an odd speaker, so we were going to replace both the back speakers. And yesterday we were doing this one, and we realized that we might have turned it wrong, and so it's not sitting quite flush with the door. So we're going to redo this side, and then we're going to do that side. There's also a disturbing lack of explanation videos on the subject on YouTube. There's only one we could find, and it's not too great, so we thought we would do a better one. So yeah, you want to explain what we're doing at the moment?
So yeah, like Will was saying, we did this yesterday, and so we're going to just kind of do this again, but not the full thing. But on the other side, we'll do the full thing on the other side, so you know all what parts to pull out. But
We'll explain what we did. Anyway,
yes.
First you got to take out the plastic piece. You can reach back there. It's somewhere in the back seat or on the floor or something.
So first we took off this.
It sits here like this. All you got to do to get it off is just pull on it. Get something, crowbar, screwdriver, or something under it, and pull it. It's got these snap, pop, I don't know what to call them, things all over the place. Although, because this car is from 2012, the some of them were kind of brittle on the inside of the door, which you'll see in a minute, and they broke. We did get replacement ones. They're not hard to find at like AutoZone and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to show those a little bit later, which ones we got. So yeah, so we started here, and then
And there's a little screw, actually, that goes right here in this yellow spot. You want to zoom in on that or something? There's a screw that goes in there. You got to take out after you take off that plastic shell. And then the next reasonable step is to take a screwdriver and pop out this little plate thing that's in the bottom of this door holder thing. I don't know what to call it. There's a little plate at the bottom, and if you pop it up, it reveals a spot where a screw is supposed to go in the very bottom of it. And then you got to take that one out.
and then there's this one here.
It's behind the door knob. You got to open it, and there's a small piece of plastic. You're gonna grab that. I'll hold the camera.
Yeah, I'll see.
There's a small piece of plastic that fits back there.
There's this piece of plastic. This is probably one of the more difficult ones to actually pop out because there's nothing to leverage on.
And it's risky to leverage on the handle because it feels like it might break or something. So if you have a second person, you can push on the handle towards the plate, so to give it more to leverage on with a screwdriver, and just pop it out. And there'll be a screw behind there in a little yellow hole in the back there.
I'll show like where. So you have to put the screwdriver in like right here. It's the only spot that you can get to that little tiny piece of plastic and pop it out. It's all up in here. It's totally you can't get to it.
It's blocked off by plastic.
Yeah. All right.
And then that's all the screws. This one here, and that one there, and that one there. The upper one, the one in the holder, and the one by the handle. And then what we would recommend you do is take a crowbar, or if you have a panel remover, pry bar of some sort. We don't have that, so we kind of went with the more reckless option, crowbar. And you gotta slide it in somewhere along the, somewhere along here, and gently pry it open. See, that was just one of those little things popping out. It actually popped out, thank God, instead of breaking. See? They're popping out. little by little. If you'd like to, you could probably put a towel or something here to avoid scraping up your paint, like I so ignorantly just kind of did. But once you've got these unpopped, the panel should kind of it'll just kind of fall.
It'll fall off, so you actually make sure to hold it.
And it will be hanging on by some wires, and that's about it. So.
And there's 4 of them, at least 4.
Just 4, I believe, going along this bottom curve. See, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's one, I think, at the way back, closest to the car there. Let's see if I can get to that. And there might be one at the top, or 2 or 3 at the top, or something. We'll find out in a minute here. We did this yesterday, but can't find a good spot to hold, so it might just be kind of good to grab the panel and gently with your hand, that is, pull. See, just popping them off. It's not too terribly difficult. Here they come. Alright, there's one more here at the bottom. And this one is the only remaining one that came with the car. The blue ones that came with the car are inconceivably difficult to remove and also kind of brittle, so hopefully it doesn't break. And if it does, we have extras, but it would be nice not to, so. Got it? I got it. Didn't break. So the panel is just hanging on by the wires connecting the door and the lock, and also the wires connecting the speaker and the window control. And we tested it. None of the modifications we made so far have blocked off the window going up and down, and I'm sure it won't, as long as you don't use too long of screws. So the next step to removing and replacing the speaker is, well, stock. We've modified it, but in the stock arrangement there will be, what are they called?
Rivets.
Rivets at the top and the sides and the bottom. And we don't have a rivet gun or any sort of tool meant for removing rivets, and so we just took a drill. What size drill bit did we use?
I think we used, eventually I ended up using just a 1/8 drill bit to drill them out. Was all we need, and actually I still think we'll recommend going up even one size even bigger to drill. So each one of these holes had a rivet in them, and the only way to get the rivets out is to drill them out.
Just be careful when you're drilling them out not to push too far, because you could go through the back panel of the car maybe if it were a long enough bit. But once you drill them out, we used pliers to kind of rip out the remnants of each rivet, which allowed, and then you got to unplug the speaker, so I'll do that now, because we're going to have to be, we rotated the speaker because we don't have a rivet gun, like I said previously, so in order to reinstall this ring, what we did was we screwed it in, we rotated it so that the rivet holes on the plastic did not line up with the rivet holes in the actual door. And so we made new holes with these, what size?
I'll have to go look, but we just used self-tapping screws that just ran through, so we didn't have to worry about realigning anything up, and using gigantic, huge screws to go through those holes, because they would be really large screws. So
if you tried to reuse the rivet holes, you'd have to use a massive screw.
Yeah.
Is what he's trying to say, and so we ended up just making our own holes with some self-tapping screws. But, well, first you gotta undo the rivets and then take this out. You gotta unplug it. I'll do it here. Come on now. There's a little button per se. kind of squeeze it and pull. I kind of need an extra hand here.
I'll hold that.
You move this way a bit. So the door panel is, remember, connected by wires, and yes, I'm not sure if you can unplug them or not. I think I could if you really wanted to, but it's not necessary.
Right, we just kind of worked around
it.
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts the car too bad to leave it hanging by those wires, but I would also not want to have it sitting there for too long. So where did that little pressure thing go? Here it is. Squeeze and pull. Alright, I got it. Kind of an unruly little bugger, but it's out. And so then what we did at that point was we undid the rivets and took out the plastic ring, and then you just have to basically tear off all of the bits of the old speaker off of the, because it's all glued on to this plastic, this cream cover.
Okay.
I'm gonna use this flathead to try to pry off the plastic ring. Be careful not to break off. We used flex glue. Not sponsored. To reattach the new better speaker to the plastic ring.
As well as also
you have to cut off the back side of the...
Yeah, and we will show you that as well on the other, when we do that, so you understand what we're
yammering about.
Talking about, because this one's already kind of done. But what we ended up doing, the reason why we're redoing this one again, is because when we put this speaker in, it's not flat, it's at an angle, and we turned it at a wrong angle, so
and the little plastic,
this part down here,
it
right
is
there,
angled.
It's angled to match
the rotation of this, and it has a little bit of wiggle room, but we accidentally turned it too far, which has made it so that this doesn't fully line up with this, and so the door panel, this whole big plastic thing, isn't sitting perfectly flush with the car. And so we're gonna just undo these self-tapping screws, rotate it a little closer to its original position, but not all the way there, and re-drill these self-tapping screws. Oh, and there's really no electronics behind all of this, so you're not drilling into any wires or anything like that. All the wires run along the bottom of the car.
Okay, there should be one more, right?
Yeah, it's down here.
Can't see it. So there is one heavier piece of metal right here, and the rest of it is all just very thin metal. But I tried to put a screw right through here, and I couldn't go through. So the rest of it, though, you should be able to go anywhere you want.
We had to use some of these little wire connecting caps to connect the old plug on the plastic ring to the new speaker. Which, I mean, it may vary from speaker to speaker, but on this one, it came with its own wires that plug on to the speaker, and then we used wire caps to connect that to the old plug.
Right, there's multiple ways that you can decide to be able to hook that up. You decided to use the caps, but you can use the crimpers, you could solder it on yourself without even having to do that. So there's a lot of different ways you could do it, depending on, what'll work best for you and what you like. I just like using those because it was simple and it was easy to get that done.
Oh, and there were little plastic spikes on the back side of this, which went in holes on the door themselves, right next to the rivets. There was 2 of them. We just dremeled those off of the speaker. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have dremeled off the
little spikes that are on the back to help the speaker line up. We were just following what another guy had done, and in hindsight, there was really no reason to do that because all you
can just make your own holes.
Yeah, just make your own holes,
and it will help to align the speaker where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Which we had trouble with. As you'll see, we had to undo our work from the first day when we weren't recording and redo it. So what we're going to do now is put it back to a similar position of where it was at the start, which would have been like this. This is its actual meant to be position, with the rivet holes lining up with the holes in the ring, and the plug facing at a 45-degree angle, kind of downwards towards the front of the car when the door is closed. But we can't do it here exactly. I suppose we could if we just put the drills somewhere else, holes, just to make sure you don't hit your old ones.
Yeah, I can even use the old ones. Doesn't matter.
Well, we just don't want to accidentally make a really wide hole, so just make sure that won't line up with it.
We're all good there. There. And now it's all reattached.
And now there's the plug, which we're just going to put back in that same little hole and make sure I line this up properly. It goes in like this. It's plugged in now. Now we just got to reattach the door panel. So we're going to start by snapping in those, we got to line up the door, so pull it up there. A little hole, line it up with the yellow piece. Line this up properly. And then you just gotta start pushing them in. You gotta apply kind of a steady pressure and just kind of push in the plastic popping things. It's already more flush.
Yeah, it's much more flush this time, which makes a big difference of which way make sure that always the speaker is the same way.
Ow. Well, I might have just done one on accident there by kneeing the car.
Oh.
Stabbed my back on the handle thing. Alright, there's one more up here. There.
There we go.
Popped it. Is that all of them?
Yep, I think that's all of them.
Push along the bottom here. Pants are falling down. Push it all the way. I think we got it there.
So first I'm going to put this one.
We're kind of on a lack of manpower here. We don't have a very good cameraman. His name is Tripod. So.
There's only 3. They're all the same.
You put it in. Did you line it up good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We can probably put that piece back actually.
Uh-huh.
Again, up there it's this piece that goes in like this. And there's holes for it to pop into place. Like so. Good as new. There it is. Next up, we gotta put in the piece, well, we gotta screw in this and put the cap back in on the bottom here, and then put in that piece of plastic behind the handle after the screw. Is it in?
Yep.
Just push it back in. And there's one more behind the door handle we're getting at.
Okay.
So that's little clips on the back there. I'm gonna try to line this up so that let me get this back out. So that these goes back here and those two go back in there. I don't know if it's in here. I can't tell. I don't think so. screwdriver. This is the most troublesome piece of the whole puzzle. This is absolutely the most obnoxious part, is getting this part in and out. So, actually, I think it's just should be pushed, right? Should just push him in there?
Yeah. Or just take the screwdriver and press on it. Just press on it.
I can push with my fingers. I don't think that's. I don't know if that's in or not. I'm gonna give it a little tug. See if it's actually in. So this is what we're talking about earlier. The only spot where you can fit a screwdriver to get this out in the first place is right back there. And and you got the only thing you have to lever against is the handle, so it's good to have someone push against it so you don't accidentally break the handle. We've not come close to that, but we don't know what point it might break, so good to be careful.
Looks like it's on. It's good.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Alright, so currently we're in the back seat of the car, and the Veloster is interesting in that it only has a door on the right side. So in order to get to the speaker in here, because there's no door panel to remove, it's all this plastic panel here, you got to go behind the driver's seat, which we've put as far forward as possible, and leaned it forward as far as possible. So step one, let me come up here, are these lining pieces along the floor of the car here. And step one is to pop it out, and it has the same mechanism.
Might be useful to use a screwdriver or something so we can get it out.
I'm not sure how to come at this. This is the first time we've not done this side yet, so we're walking into this side
a little more blind.
Yeah. Oh, see, there we go. And just kind of slide along here and pop it up. Okay, this is a different type of popping out thing, but it is just another pop in, pop out system. It looks to be anyway. There we go. I gotta take this whole thing out. There we go. See, these ones just kind of pop in like that. They've got little holes that they go into at the bottom there.
Alright, so that's the first part. Okay.
So the next step is to remove this rubber lining, just not all of it off the car, but just pull it up. You just kind of yank on it, up to where the panel starts, right there. The door panel, you can see, or the side panel there of the car starts right there.
Okay.
The next step is to start kind of prying out this side panel here to try and pop out those same little plastic, whatchamacallits, I don't know what to call them.
They're clips, plastic clips.
I can see one down here. It might do the same thing as the last ones where it pops out of the wrong side. So sometimes with these, what happens is those little plug things, I don't know if you can, how well you can see it in there, they're supposed to pop out of the metal, but the part that's connecting it to the panel will pop out. It might even break, which is really sucky.
Just because they're so old and brittle that they don't actually release properly because they're just so old and brittle. But they're pretty easy to replace.
Yeah, it just did it where it came out of the wrong side. It didn't break, but it did come out of the wrong part, which is annoying to say the least. What can you do about it though? So you just gonna start prying. Now, steady pressure is better than jerking pressure. I would concentrate the force on where the little plugs are. I'm not quite sure where they are, so I'm kind of searching for them. And this seatbelt thing is really in the way here. There's one. Found one up here. So Dad's gonna give it a try here. It's pretty tight. Looks like he's getting it though.
There we go.
There we go. A couple of them came off on the wrong side, but.
Alright, I need to get in there because I gotta start up here.
So again, we're trying to pry out those little clips.
So what we've run into is that there are two clips somewhere right in this area, and they're very difficult to be able to pull the panel off. There's no way to get any leverage, so we're still trying to figure out how to get enough leverage to be able to pop off those, at least those two clips. So we're working on that, and as soon as we figure out how to get that unclipped, we will explain what we did. We will show you what we did as soon as we figure out a way to be able to do it. So what I've done is I put the crowbar around a shirt, and I'm trying to work my way, trying to ram this crowbar in as far as I possibly can. I can almost get my fingers now behind this little ledge right here. So I'm going to keep trying to push this in as far as I can and then pull it toward me. And that's what I'm trying to do. I think I got one thing popped, but I still have another one to go. So what we were able to do is we kept working our way along this, of trying to push that crowbar in there, and then once I was able to get my fingers back up in here, I was also able to pull and pull all the way up into here, and there's a clip way back up in here, and all you have to do is pull this out far enough to be able to see down in there. And so now what we're going to do, you can see the four hex bolts. There's 1, 2, and I can't, and then 3, 4. All we have to do is remove these 4 bolts with a 10mm socket, and then unclip the speaker, and we'll show you what we do next.
So right at the moment, he's ratcheting out the 4. There's 4 little arms holding in the speaker, and he has to ratchet them out. And it doesn't look like there's any rivets on this side, actually. It looks like it's just screws. And then that whole little array will come out. You unplug the speaker, and we'll get back to you in a minute. So we've finally popped it out as far as we could. There are the little plug things here. There's a couple down the side, and there's a few. I think you can see it probably in the back. But once those are out, you can pry it out. Very, very, very small amount. But you just got to lift up and pull out. And there should be a plug on the back of the speaker there, somewhere on the side of the speaker.
Yep, it's on the bottom.
And you just got to kind of pull on it. The thing he's pointing to,
right
it's
here.
holding the wire to this frame holding the speaker, which doesn't allow you to remove it from the car. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to pull it out with needle nose pliers. If that doesn't work, we're going to snip it with some wire/plastic cutting tool.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to you in a minute. So we broke off that little clip that was holding the wire. So what we did was we took a needle nose, and that was the first thing we tried, was to try to twist it, break it off. That wasn't working so well, so we took wire/plastic cutters and nipped it. Be careful not to nip the wire, though. And also, we're out of the car right now, but we have the wire perched on something so we don't lose it. And in the car, it will be sitting like this. So, make sure that Hyundai symbol's upright. The next step, which I can't tell you how happy I am to see this, is it's not rivets, it's just Phillips head screws, which is a miracle. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and unscrew this stuff. The next step, now that we've got this part removed, is to get rid of the whole speaker. And we're going to start by ripping off this foam. No, not the foam, but the foam and this plastic ring underneath the foam. Let's see if I can get to it. I'm going to use this flathead to try to pry off the plastic ring. Be careful not to break off the cream colored stuff. Here we go, you can hear it ripping. There we go.
And that's the whole speaker.
Yeah, there's a rubbery adhesive substance, I don't know what to call it, under there. Come on now. And we're just going to try to rip that off. Remember, it's the plastic ring under the foam. There we go. Oh. God, that stuff's strong. Alrighty. So, and then you can just rip out, well, unless you're planning on reusing the speakers. This one's a blown speaker as it is, so it doesn't matter if it breaks or not. So we're just going to rip out the speaker. And then we're going to use this plastic cutters to cut off this back part of the speaker. So this one's a little different from the other side with this big plastic piece here, but you do not want to cut this piece here because that's what the plug goes through. But we do want to cut is these little wires. Until then, I'm going to be cutting off everything but this one. I've already cut this one and this one, so we're going to cut. I was cutting them from this way, I think. How are we supposed to get? We're gonna have to cut it below the wires.
Yeah, you're gonna have to cut it there.
This is not. So this one's a little different from the other side, because we have to get this whole back section out, but we also don't want to ruin the wire setup. So we're gonna have to cut it right beneath the wires. So like here. Perfect.
Yep.
So this part's out. Don't need that. Now you've got a nice, disgusting, ugly magnet fridge. Or fridge magnet. Are we gonna Dremel this down? We don't have to.
These don't.
If you just get a little more.
So those
because there's no new hole. Maybe.
They don't. Well, these don't get in the way. These don't really get in the way of anything, and so I didn't Dremel those down because it's not really an issue. They don't really get in the way of anything. The speaker doesn't hit it, so you don't really have to make that clean unless you really are a stickler for making something clean. Then you could, you know, Dremel all those down if you really want to, but they don't get in the way.
Oh, and also because there's no rivets, we're just going to reuse the same holes and the same screws, so don't Dremel down these like you do on the other side. Oh, and I mean, I'm sure if you're already in the middle of this project, you might know this, but the rear speakers on the Hyundai Veloster are 6.5-inch speakers. So
we're going to show you how we're going to glue the speaker into this, and then figure out if we need to also screw it in as well.
We're using flex glue. We're gonna line this ring where we pull up the plastic. You could use probably a different glue of some sort. You could probably use silicone or liquid nails or something along that type. I don't know. It's really up to you as long as you trust it. And we're gonna line this, and then we're also gonna put some tiny screws in. Stuff says it like grabs instantly, but that's not really exactly true. So, this is the speaker we got. It's a Pioneer 300 watt, 16 centimeter or 6.5 inch. The code or whatever is TS G16205F. It was like $50 for the both of them. Nothing crazy, but just enough. So make sure you line it up right. There's also a spot for the wires on the back.
That's all right.
So we're squishing down the speaker on this and show them the underside. Make sure you hold it. We lined up the wire connector on the speaker with the wires on the connectors for the original speaker. We're gonna cut the wires down, and the speaker came with its own wires, these ones here, and we're gonna connect those up and then strip the other end and use some small crimpers to connect the two.
We're gonna use wire nuts.
Wire nuts or crimpers or whatever you call them.
Yeah, you can use crimping connectors, or you can use wire nuts, or even if you want to, you could even probably you could just even solder that really easily.
Right there.
So we're going to drill 4 little holes, just big enough. I don't want to crack or make it to have to push through the plastic very hard, and so I'm just using a 1/16 inch drill bit.
So we're gonna start drilling tiny holes for some tiny screws for extra reinforcement. Really tiny holes. We're drilling them. Oh, see, this speaker's got little spots where you're supposed to put screws, it looks like, and that's exactly where we're putting them. Your speaker might be a little different, but
okay, so I have these little tiny screws. I drilled a 1/16 inch hole for each of these little tiny screws. Figure that is all we need to be able to hold it in place, just enough for the glue to be able to hold because the glue will pretty much hold it all there once it all dries, but I want to be able to have something to be able to hold that there because we don't have all day. So I'm going to hold that in with the
screws.
With the little screws.
Alrighty. So it should be stable enough.
Yeah, now you can flip it upside down without the glue falling all over the place.
We gotta work on the wiring now.
Now we have to work on the wiring.
So where'd that wire cutter go, that red one? The wire cutter.
It's over there.
So
first I'm gonna just split these apart. This is what came with the speakers. And this one, they are actually designed to clip in. So when you put it on, they actually clip and you can feel it, and you can't pull them back out because that little hole there, they put a little clip, a little notch for it to stop so it won't come back out, or not at least very easily. So that's the first part.
So this wires that came with it is very long.
For what you need. Yeah, I don't need very much. I'm just putting this over here. Yes, I had a little trouble with the other one. Kept having my wire cutters kept getting stuck to the back of the speaker.
We're just kind of measuring out an appropriate length to cut it at. Then we're going to strip it.
And then all we have to do is put the wires together, and then I like to twist the one wire kind of just around it a little bit.
Hold on, moving.
Just kind of twist it around it so it's kind of hugging it, and then take my wire nut and then start spinning that until it starts grabbing it and rotating it. And there, that's on all the way.
And now that side of the speaker is connected to the plug. Then we'll do it on the other side. And then we'll then we'll be doing the installation process, which will most certainly be annoying, but especially because we're losing light pretty fast.
We may do this tomorrow.
We can't leave the car like in its current condition, so
yeah, we can.
yeah, we'll just leave the door open a crack for the robbers.
No, I don't mean.
We're gonna make it nice and comfy for all the robbers, and then we're gonna leave the door open overnight. Is that what you mean?
No. Just put something back, part of enough together to be able to lock the car, and we'll do this maybe the rest of it tomorrow. There. Okay, and that's on. Make sure you pull on make sure that that's all attached. Nothing will come out. And then those should be good. Alright, so we've got that attached. Alright, so instead of using this clip that we ripped off, I'm going to just put another hole right here for a zip tie. And so I'm just going to put a nice hole there for... And then we can put a zip tie through it. And so the reason why we have a zip tie there is so the cord isn't just sitting there hanging and pulling on the plug. So you want to be able to zip tie that.
Just make sure that the zip tie is nice and taut, and so it doesn't rattle.
Yeah. Also, that's another reason you don't want that cord in there flopping around. It could possibly, it might rattle, but most of the reason is probably so you just don't want that cord hanging on the plug. So that's that part. That's all we needed there.
So we're going to be putting the speaker back into the speaker rack. I don't know what you'd call it. You can see the one with the spot for the little holes. See these two things? They go here.
So it'd be the side like this.
Which those little rods go in their holes. Did the rods go in the holes?
Yep. Mosquitoes are coming out. And then all we have to do is screw the speaker back in.
We're finished.
We are finished.
It's day 3 of the project. Well, we finished yesterday, but it was like 6 hours each day, 2 days, probably because we're slow, but, and we were learning at the same time.
Yeah, that when we bought the speakers, they're like, oh yeah, it's really easy. And you can say it's
liars.
It's not like extremely complicated, but it just takes a lot more time than what you think. It did take us quite a bit of time and effort to do everything. It's not like maybe if you're a professional or something, maybe it'll only take you maybe an hour or something, but otherwise, yeah, it took us a while. But we had never taken apart this car like that before, so it was kind of a new thing. We were just going off of what we saw on YouTube.
And then we decided to one-up that person because their video was not very descriptive.
So what do you think was the most difficult part of the project?
Well, each side had its own difficulties. On the right side, where there's a door, I'd say the hardest part was probably drilling out the rivets, because sometimes I didn't want to go.
No, they were pretty difficult to be able to, even once we drilled out the rivets, it was still difficult to actually, rip off the little part of the head just to get the rivets out.
The hardest part about the left side, though, is just the complete lack of space. It's really hard to work in. I can't see how someone could do it alone. It's really,
it'd be
really
very
hard.
difficult.
So yeah, it's like a tight squeeze between the panel of the car and the actual car. So.
But we got it all done, and
sounds nice.
It sounds good, and we got everything all back together properly.
Yeah. Basically, to put the left side back together, it got way too dark to record.
And we figure that, the hardest part is taking it apart. You know how to put it back together because you took it apart, so just kind of do it in reverse order.
The hardest part about that was probably fixing the rubber lining around the door, because all you had to do is if you broke one of the things, all you got to do is replace it.
And
we got some Nissan clips; they work just as well, and you can replace them in the slots if you pull out the broken bit. But after that's all done, you just push it back together basically after you've reattached the speaker contraption, I'll call it. Once that's back in, the hardest part is, well, it's over. You just push it back together and put everything back where it was in reverse. But the rubber lining was a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I think I found out that you have to make sure that the lump or whatever, it's gonna kind of start to look like there's too much, and I found that if you have that on the bottom, it seems to spread it out and it goes away. Otherwise, you have this weird lump that won't go away. That seemed to be the best way to do it, is have that lump be right in the middle of the bottom of the door, and it just kind of disappears.
Yeah, sorry we couldn't show us putting the other side back together, but it got way too dark to record, and we were both just a little bit sick of working on it, so we just kind of rushed to completion after it got dark.
Yeah, well, there was no way to be able to film with it being so dark. We were, had headlamps on, and we were trying to, finish it with that. And there was no way to film. But anyway, hope you enjoy this video of us putting the speakers in, and if you have any questions, don't forget to you know, comment. Hopefully we'll be able to respond back to let you know. You know, if you have any questions or something, if we left something out. That's about it.
Like and subscribe, I suppose, if you'd like. Sorry the video is so long.
All right.